Recording. Hi.
Hello.
معنا اليوم دكتور محمود ناتوت. I let you introduce yourself هيك دغري أحسن ما تقول.
إيه؟
Yeah.
أنا دكتور محمود ناتوت. أنا ومحمود
من تعول الدكاترة اللي ما بيفيدوا بالحياة ولا مبلا ما بعرف.
إيه ما منعالج مرضى. كنت بدي بلش أقول اختصاصي، بس أنا صاير عندي اتش ومشكلة مع الاختصاصات وكيف منقدمها. أنا بلعب بكتير أمور بمجال التربية، مجال الكونسلتينج والترينينج، بمجال التنمية، بمجالات مختلفة. بعلم بجامعة أمريكية ببيروت بدائرة التربية، وكمان بدائرة الإنسانيات. كمان أنا عضو مؤسس بشركة بعدها صغيرة عم تكبر، اسمها لعب، وهلأ بركي بنحكي عنها أكتر. هي شركة استشارات وتنمية قدرات وتدريب. وهيدا this is basically it. بعتقد الباقي حيطلع بحديثنا. نحن عم نتحدث عن شتى الأمور.
إيه. إذا فيك تفسر لنا أكتر شو بتعمل بلعب؟
Okay.
When you talk about تنمية what؟
قدرات. طيب لأقول لك شغلة، هي فكرة لعب بلشت هيك تبرعم من كذا سنة بعقلي وبعقل شركاء. هلأ صرنا شراكة سوا وصرنا بارتنرز بهالموضوع، وهن أصدقاء لإلي يعني. بلشت من نقمة صغيرة موجودة فينا على كيف نشتغل وكيف العمل بشكل عام يدار بالمؤسسات وبالشركات وإلى آخره. كان عنا يعني مشكلة إنه طيب ليش ما نشتغل 9 to 5، وليه العمل دايما نحن بنفكر فيه إنه شيء جدي بمفهوم جدية بركي هلأ بنتطرق عليه. ما بيسمح لك أو بيضيق عليك إنك تلعب بالأفكار، إنك تجرب أمور جديدة، to experiment، تكون ذاتك، تكون حالك وعم تكتشف حالك من خلال الشغلة. بتصير أنت بتحس حالك أداة، إن كان عم تعلم بمؤسسة تربوية أو عم تشتغل بشركة أو إلى آخره. فأول شيء انطرح الموضوع، نحن عم نفكر بالتربية. كنا عم نشتغل مع teachers. To make a long story short، قلنا طيب يا عمي، can teachers play in their classrooms and what does that mean؟ لأنه بنعرف نحن إنه المسار التربوي العالمي بشكل عام أخذ المعلم وشوي شوي حوله لأداة بكل معنى الكلمة، بتطبق مناهج حدا تاني حطتها، بيعلم بصف حدا تاني مصممه، بمؤسسة تربوية حدا تاني يمكن ما خصه بالتربية حاطت رؤيتها ورسالتها وإلى آخره. فصار المعلم أداة صغيرة، an instrument، بده يؤدي شغلة. وبنعرف نحن وانت كمعلم كمان بتعرف بقلب الصف انه الصف is a very dynamic and volatile space. هو مكون من اشخاص، مش طبقات وكراسي وال سي دي والى اخره. هدول القشور، بس الصف هو اشخاص، وهالاشخاص بفوتوا بافكار وباشنز وفيرز وانسكيورتيز ومليار شغله وسوشيال ميديا. فit's a very dynamic space. بده من الشخص اللي موجود فيه انه يقدر يقرا شو عم بيصير، يقرا هالدايناميزم ويشوف او تشوف كيف فيها to leverage this dynamism into a learning moment, into an educational moment, into a growth moment, into learning something new الى اخره. فبلشنا نفكر انه طيب المعلم لازم يقدر يلعب بهالفضاء، واللعب بمفهوم انه يكون جاهز، وبالعكس you're waiting for surprises and unexpected moments so that you can maybe pounce on them وتعمل منهم شيء. وهذا مفهوم اللعب. لما نحن وصغار لما كنا ننزل نلعب بالساحة، ما كنا ننزل with a lesson plan أو with a play plan. قليل كتير. وحتى إذا نزلنا with a play plan كنا نكبها بعد شوي بالزبالة. لانه ينزل اولاد الجيران، يجوا اصحابنا من حي ثاني، و all of a sudden بدنا نغير القوانين، بدي اغير ماي رول ان ذا جيم، نطلع بجيم جديد تتماشى، ومنه تكتشف امور عن ذاتك، عن الاشخاص، تبني علاقات معهم، تتخانق معهم، تحل نزاعات بينك وبينهم، كله من خلال اللعب. فبلشنا نقول انه اللعب هو شغله موجوده فينا بطبيعتنا وفطرتنا اذا بدك، بس نكبر بنصير بنقول انه هلا مش وقت اللعب، وقت الجد. بنحط هيدي البرنايطه انه انا دكتور، انا معلم، انا مانجر، انا مدري شو، ومنفوت على هالحاله اللي هي مكونه من اشخاص، ان كان شركه او مؤسسه او صف او وات ايفر، وبنلعب دور جامد. ولكن لما كنا عم نلعب كنا عنا الحريه والراحه النفسيه انه نغير ادوار ونكون كتير مرنين بادوارنا. فجينا قلنا انه المعلم لازم يكون عنده مرونه باللعب بالدور اللي بيلعبه، امرار بده يكون هو البطل، امرار بده يكون سايد كيك، امرار بده يكون الفيلن، امرار بده يكون كثير امور. طيب هل يا ترى المعلمين عم يتهيئوا لهالشيء؟ دوائر التربيه بلبنان او عالميا بتهيئ المعلم لهالشيء، ولا بيقولوا له هيك بتصمم الليسن بلان وهذا الكوريكولم وهيك تعمل كلاس روم مانجمنت، واذا طلع لك شيء سربرايز this is how you manage surprise، يعني this is how you actually frustrate surprises، بدل ما this is how you can create from surprises. فاشتغلنا مع معلمين we used دراما، وبعدين انتقلنا لقصص اكثر، لقينا الدراما انه هي جزء من اللعب، وبلشنا نكون هيك a kind of a methodology and a philosophy of how play can impact the way we interact with other people, basically, put in a very simple way. ومن هالشيء لقينا انه ذات الفلسفه وبعض الافكار اللي عم تتبلور فينا نستعملها مع اي حدا بيتعاطى مع بني ادمين بمحيط بفضاء معين، like social workers، بعدين like managers, like designers, like creatives, whatever it is. ومبنيه هي الفكره على انه نحن عنا القدره انه نلعب كل حياتنا. هلا بنفوت ببعض المفاهيم الليش، يعني it's not just a wishful thinking انه نحن فينا نلعب بكل حياتنا. It's actually something baked into our nervous system. It's part of our nature. مش a metaphysical speculation about our nature. لا, it's a biological neurological evidence انه نحن يا خيي بنلعب كل حياتنا، ومنوقف لعب لما الناس تقلنا بدكم توقفوا لعب. فهيدي هي. فقلنا انه بركي فينا ناخذ هالافكار وهالمايند سيت وانه نقدر ندخلها لهالفضاءات المختلفه، ان كان بميدان العمل، التربيه، العمل الاجتماعي الى اخره، لنشوف قد ايه فيها تخلي هالاشخاص وفرق عم يتعاونوا مع بعض انه يكون عندهم مرونه اكثر بمخيلتهم، بالادوار اللي بيلعبوها، بالمفاجآت اللي they respond to, in the meaning they create، وكيف بيتفاعلوا مع الاشخاص اللي هن عم يجربوا يا يساعدوهم يا يقدموا لهم سيرفيس معين يا الى اخره. سو بشكل عام لعب نشأت هيك، وصرنا عم نشتغل مع مؤسسات تربويه، عمل اجتماعي، مع شركات والى اخره، لنستعمل هالفلسفه لنساعدهم انه يقدروا يكونوا قد ما فيهم كل حالهم كل ذاتهم بميدان عملهم.
A lot of things come to mind من اللي قلته and this is very interesting. بس في several questions that came to mind. حبلش شوي بس أول شيء is it more like عم بتحاول يعني لأن you're going against the current إذا بدك، بس اللي عم بتحاول تعمله إنه you're trying to get these people to unlearn what they already learned one way or the other، لأنه إذا عم تقول إنه this is by nature إنه إحنا we're open to play ونلعب. so هيدي ما بعرف إذا بتلاقي إذا صعبة لأنه خلص صارت كتير embedded in us on the one hand, and on the other hand إذا عم بتحاول تخلي الناس يرجعوا يعرفوا يلعبوا between brackets وعم بتحاول تطلع بفلسفة جديدة. isn't this falling into the same trap kind of methodologies و plans و etc. ولا how does this play out إذا بدك؟
Nice. Great questions نيناتهم. أكيد we are kind of going against the current, but the current in itself is changing. إذا نفكر بمفهوم العمل نحن اليوم عم يتغير جدا، ويمكن هلأ كمان حالة الكورونا was kind of a litmus test and also هيك that revealed a lot of the problems that we were facing, the good, the bad and the ugly. مفهومنا للعمل، وإذا بدك نرجع للwork ethic اللي والwork / Protestant ethic اللي تبلور بالقرن التاسع عشر، مبني على إذا بدك the industrial era, the industrial revolution and مخلفاتها كلها، حط سيستم معين لكيف نحن بنشتغل. وهالسيستم with increased automation وقتها، بس still automation was not well developed. It had to fill in the missing cogs with human beings. So the Fordist system of manufacturing, scientific management that was proposed and developed in the 19th century وهيك جرب يحط systems for production that are efficient for mass production and so on and so forth and that are cost effective. So كان في هرمية بالموضوع. So to develop a cost effective system بدك كتير cheap labor and a very good design. So a few designers كانوا engineers or whatever management scientists حطوا سيستم معين to make production cost effective, and the missing cogs in that machine that could not be automated were filled in with human laborers. Yeah. And it was very effective and efficient لأنه it was so well designed that the human laborers only had to do very simple routine-based easily replaceable tasks. يعني أنا بجيب محمود بقول له بدك كل النهار. Have you seen Modern Times?
Modern Times
أكيد.
Charlie Chaplin of course. Yeah.
100%. كل الوقت وبعدين
كذب البراغي يا معلم.
100%. And he goes insane. Actually, he becomes conscious. He becomes, his insanity is reality really. So that created a certain, that came together with a work ethic that merged very well with the Protestant ethic. And I think it was Weber who speaks about capitalism and the Protestant ethic that طبعا تماشوا مع بعض الإيديولوجية والinfrastructure for production. إنه أنا بشتغل كتير, I show frugality وبذات الوقت I show a certain work ethic. I put in all my labor. Labor in itself became essentialized insofar as in labor it saves me. It's something that cleanses my soul and makes me a better being. Labor in itself, العمل بحد ذاته بغض النظر عن شو هو. فطبعا انبنى a work ethic اللي بيتماشى مع the mode of production. والعالم لليوم صارت إن كان in a bureaucratic structure or an industrial structure, they are cogs in a big machine. They are inserted, they do their work, and they have to be happy about it. They have to feel a sense of fulfillment by just toiling and toiling and toiling and toiling and not being creative enough because they need to execute. لازم يكونوا أدوات. طبعاً في a select few اللي هن بالcreative part مثل بكل مطرح, بس إنه most people adhere to a certain work ethic. وهذا كانت الحياة, هذا كان الواقع. هالشيء عم يتغير اليوم لكتير أسباب, مش بس لأنه this mode of living was dehumanizing. للأسف يا ريت بالتاريخ إنه our consciousness of being dehumanized كتير بغير. دايماً بدك كمان واقع material لكمان يدفشك تغير الأمور. طبعاً consciousness وmateriality بيمشوا مع بعض. فينا نحكي ماركس, فينا نحكي هيجل.
أنا بعدني بدي أقول لك جاي فايت لي بقوة ماركس أنت هون هلا.
بس عم نجرب لتحليل التاريخ.
ناطرك على الدائرة يس.
فالconsciousness موجودة. People know that the system had dehumanized people for decades and maybe centuries, alienated human beings from their fellow humans, from their creativity, from their humanness, etc., etc. لأنه it kind of turned a person into a cog in a machine بشكل عام. بس هلا because of technology, the same إذا بدك infrastructure that brought forth this system has developed so far. هال empty cogs اللي كنا نحط محلهم human beings are quickly being replaced by machines and AI. So the same factories هلا في كتير factories بيتباهوا إنه ما فيها a single worker جوا كلها automated.
Yeah.
AI in the software, in the cyber world is also replacing many things. She are replacing many jobs. وهلا بنحكي about jobs, and when they tell you إنه in 2040, 80% of the jobs that will exist in 2040 we haven't invented yet. So a lot of jobs are going to be extinct, new jobs are going to be invented. So الترند عم يتغير. So
yeah.
what's the
2040?
what is the role of sorry
2040.
So what is the role of the human being now in society and in the economy? إذا بعدنا ما نقول إنه we're gonna have the same jobs as before, like mostly an economy based on a majority of routine-based jobs where humans do the same thing every day, بدنا نقول باي باي لهالشي. So technology is changing, and with it الاقتصاد marketplace. So طبعا العامل بهال marketplace بده يتغير كمان. And therefore, more and more is needed of human beings to be more creative, innovative, solve serious problems, and deal with real life issues that have impact on society, the environment, the economy, and so on and so forth. So هيدي بحد ذاتها بلشت تقول للwork Protestant ethic القديم إنه مش عم أقول كله لازم كبه بزبالة، في كتير good virtues بهالشي، بس a part of it we cannot rely anymore on لأنه it will not factor anymore into the economy, let alone إنه it was to a certain extent also dehumanizing, and it was creating problems. So هلا عم نفكر إنه لا، بدنا نكون أكتر flexible بالطريقة اللي بنشتغل فيها، مش rigid. بدنا نكون أكتر creative، بدنا نلعب كذا دور، يمكن نغير أدوارنا، بدنا نتعلم بسرعة، بدنا نحل مشاكل بسرعة. ففي كتير ناس بلشوا يفكروا إنه طب what kind of an ethic is that versus a work ethic اللي كنا فهمانينه. So one book that really I consider it one of our Bibles بلعب is called The Play Ethic, written by Pat Kane. And I love Pat Kane because he's a real player. He was a pop star, a pop music artist, a journalist, a politician, an activist, and a researcher. فكتب كتاب كتير حلو, and in it he calls for a shift away from the work ethic into a play ethic. So طبعا حيكون في resistance بوقتنا, بس what is working also for us is how technology is pushing us away from an old system into a new system that we still don't understand, and we will have to invent as we go along. But Pat Kane says instead of resorting to some metaphysical understanding of human nature لنقول ليش فينا نتماشى مع نظام جديد بده flexibility وبده مدري شو, he's saying في عنا a very confident, biologically based and grounded understanding of human nature اللي هو play. And as mammals, as very advanced mammals, we're very playful, and therefore what we need to do is to tap into that playfulness to discover how we can actually adapt as well as invent this new system, the economic and social system that we are moving slowly into, or not slowly, حتى quickly into. I don't know if that answers.
It does answer the first part.
Okay, the second part was
إنه ممكن نكون عم نفوت بنفس التراب اللي هو إنه عم نحاول بنفس الطريقة. Let me rephrase the question. By trying to adapt to this spontaneous kind of workspace, workflow وهالأشياء هاي, ونكون أكتر creative, عم نحاول كمان to streamline it.
Yes. Great question. That's a brilliant question. And so maybe I'll answer it in several ways. One very simple way is by contrasting play with gamification.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
So when we say we do play, a lot of people ask us about gamification ونحن شوي هيك بزرزع بدلنا. مش لأنه gamification is bad. Gamification is great. وهلا I'll tell you what I mean by drawing on another contradiction, which is, or another contrast between finite and infinite games. We'll talk about that in a bit. Gamification is a problem and a solution, but is a bad solution. So you have an old system. It's starting to squeak. It needs oiling. بده شوية تزييت. لأنه العالم أكتر وأكتر with, if we look at statistics of mental health, social problems, عم يتكاثروا ويتزايدوا. وكتير منهم بسبب the pressures of work. People are working long hours and longer hours and overtime, several jobs, doing routine-based work بشكل عام. It's breaking down, you know, the social fabric as we know it in certain ways. So, and طبعا companies are facing a lot of burnout. في أحكيك على education or other industries or
Tell me about it, man.
Burnout. We both have experienced it in several ways.
Oh, yes.
Yeah. And employee turnover. So you train your employees, بعد شوي بقول لك I can't take it anymore, بفل أو بتفل. So كل هالشيء بيعتبروه بلاقوا الcompanies إنه it's costly. So the first thing they think about إنه hey, let's try to figure out a way to take the same system but make it more fun, so that people will do the same thing but have fun doing it. يعني if it was oppressive, now it's like really oppressive. في مقولة ما بعرف إذا sorry لماركس.
لا ما عندي مشكل أنا
بقول لك بس أنا
because I know you're not an abstractive hippie, this is why.
Yeah, okay. بس إنه listen, we can, I mean, all these are is a cultural capital that we can use to critically understand our. So we should be flexible again, not dogmatic.
ما أنت لأنه this is why you're not an abstractive idealist hippie. This is why ماشي حالك.
I don't like dogma. I can't say Marx sallallahu alayhi wa sallam.
Exactly. Yes.
You know, and Das Kapital is my Bible. شو بيقول بهالكلمة هون؟
هيدا اللي بيزعج هيدي بس هيك on the side أنا عم شكل لأنه it's something لفت لي نظري إنه بتلاقي كتير من الناس اللي بيعتبروا حالهم communists أو leftists etc. بيقول لك لأنه ماركس قال هيك فبتلاقيهم they're exhibiting the same religious dogmatic dynamics اللي هن إنه مثلا عم يتمسخروا على الدين مثلا يا خي ماروق ما أنت حامل لي الداس كابيتال مثل ما عم تقول ماشي ما لأنه ماركس said إنه هيك حيصير you know. بس anyway
ولنين شو قايل هون بكتابه إنه right
فماركس
بمطرح I think لقيله الكوت بس أنا سامعها من جيجاك يمكن بيقول لك first as tragedy then as farce اللي بتنطبق هلا اذا بدك على عم نقوله على الجيميفيكيشن. اول شيء the system was tragic because it's oppressive. هلا بنجي we lubricate it with games بس الزلمه بعده قاعد ورا طبقته وعم يعمل data entry بس through a game interface for 10 hours a day for a minimum wage. It's a farce. It's a يعني اضحوكه بتصير انه مسخره بس بعده عم يعمل ذات الشيء. فنحن عندنا مشكله معه واللي سالته انت كثير مهم لانه it can easily be co-opted by the system وبصير انه انا عملت لكم ريتريت وعملت لكم I gamified your process لازم تكونوا مبسوطين وما عادش اسمع منكم حسكم.
Yes.
اللي هي of course not. A play ethic is going to require really a redesign, restructuring, a revolutionizing of the way we provide value, we create, we generate new things, and how we interact with other human beings in the process to do so. And so it's going to require a lot of change. بس هلا طبعا نحن أمرار نزج هلا we are a company and so كمان نوقع بدايلما إنه طيب we want to survive so we want to make money and to make money بدك تمشي مع الماركت. بالنهاية you have to provide service to customers who want something. But where can we play a good role in maybe nudging خلينا نحكي nudging a mindset slowly لينفهم الأمور من ناحية تانية ويبلش في تغيير على صعيد معين. So it is what you asked is a dilemma that we battle with every day وحنضلنا بعتقد يعني not until الايكونومي and the way we do work يبلش يتغير ويبلش يفتش على a mindset جديدة, a zeitgeist, a spirit, a new spirit for doing work. ساعتها يمكن بحس نحن we can fill in a space. بس هلا we're struggling طبعا يعني. So yes, it's hard. وما بدنا ابدا to slip into اللي كنت عم تقوله انت, بصير في هيك rigid methods or procedures on how to have fun at work, how to be happy at work. هذه happiness at work, I like it as a title, but I كمان resent it لأنه it's reduced to a very silly understanding of happiness. Not a kind of eudaimonistic understanding of what happiness is. Anyway, so yeah.
Fascinating stuff. لأنه do you really think إنه الناس اللي بتشتغل بهيك kind of workspace would rather they open up to a different kind of dynamism أو work dynamics يعني لأنه it takes a lot of effort. أنا كشخصيا هلا مثلا I'm tinkering on the side, it takes a lot of يعني هالcreativity اللي عم بتجيب سيرتها وهال to come up with new ideas and to be able to adapt to the economy and work ethic etc. It's not something يعني easy even though هلا فيمكن يكون في عندك ناس who enjoy that بس انه ناس تانية بتقول لك خي حل عني انت انه I don't want to interact with anything, I just want to do my job 9 to 5 and go back home. فيعني هي is it a problem really of مثلا انه the work ethic that was embedded in us in a way or another throughout centuries حتى ولا and there's something else انه الناس couldn't be bothered. انا خي ما بدي اوجع راسي لانه I've been in such a kind of attitude so that انه تلاقوا انه خي ما حل ما I just want to do my job. ما بدي افكر, ما بدي شغل راسي, ما بدي اعمل شيء, بدي بس اعمل الداتا انتري and that's it. ايه
So في كذا جواب لهيدي. واحدة منهم اللي إذا بدك the cruel answer is the cruel answer, and then we'll go to the softer answer. The cruel answer, fine, but I hope you retire soon. Like I hope your retirement is in the next few years. مش كتير لأنه otherwise you're gonna be يعني somebody's gonna say bye bye to you soon.
True.
إذا أنت يعني إذا أنت بتعمل data entry. Listen محمود, AI today اللي هلا عم يفكر يتخصص طبيب أشعة بقول له اوعى لأنه in a few years بسنتين ثلاثة يمكن طبيب الأشعة كمهنة حتنفقد بعتقد لأنه a simple AI can much better diagnose a CT scan or an MRI than أهم طبيب أشعة. مع إنه البلمر it's gonna take I think at least another century لننهي هالشغلة لأنه until you develop a robot that can really troubleshoot plumbing ويصلحها I think it's gonna take at least 50 to 100 years. Lawyers who do simple كاتب العدل. I know 2 people that I've met in Dubai today who were lawyers and now moved to a new business. They're developing an AI app that does most of the no-brainer legal work. You can scan a document وفيها تقول لك وين ال legal loopholes فيها. Legal loopholes. So much is gonna change. So للي مبسوطين بهالحالة إذا مبسوطين عال وإذا بدي يتقاعدوا قريباً great. بس اللي هلأ عم يفكر إنه أنا بدي أعمل طبيب أشعة حتى ما أشتغل مثلاً فوت إنه أطلع على كم سكان بالنهار وبروح على بيتي أكون مبسوط أو أنا بدي بس فوت data entry على Excel أو مدري شو. These jobs are going to become obsolete very soon. So this is the hard truth إذا بدك. You know on the other hand ندخل بقد ايه نحن متشربين the work ethic مثل ما انت قلت. النظام التربوي مشربنا اياه كمان محمود، ومشربنا فكره انه انا كل ما درست كل ما طب فكر فيها، نحن نظامنا التربوي معتمد على الحفظ، واذا كنا نقعد نحفظ 6-7 ساعات برافو عليك يا محمود انت درست اليوم. اللي هو انت لا تعلمت شيء ولا مشبعه فينا انه انا بدي اتعب كتير بس بعدين بدي وقف تعب، لانه العمل تعب، العمل هو مجرد ارهاق نفسي وجسدي، وبس اخلص بروح بلعب وبنبسط وبرتاح وورك لايف بالانس وكل هالقصص. ما عم اقول ما لازم يكون في ورك لايف بالانس، بس ما if we imagine work life balance means you're pitting work against life. What is that? And it reveals it's a term used by the modus operandi of capitalism today, but people don't stop to think about it. So work is not life, and if life is human, so work is unhuman. So فمشبعينا وعايشينا. بس imagine انت, I mean, look at you tinkering and playing. Imagine if you can tinker and play, not just being like a solopreneur, هيدا التعبير الجديد, being just a solopreneur. ليش عم نلتجئ للsolopreneurship نحن؟ لأنه we can't see ourselves working in these systems anymore. They're suffocating us, they kill us, we have no wiggle room, and if we try something new, we're punished and penalized for it. إنه فأكيد either you want to be very cautious وتقولي خيي بخلص اللي علي وبروح بعيش حياتي, I have hobbies, I have my family, ويحلوا عني خلاص, لا شو بدي أعمل هالشي. فايه مشبعينا.
system forces you into it يعني, لانه مثل ما عم تقول بتصير انه عندك انه بكره اليرلي evaluation والمانجر بيقول لك لا وهيك, وبارت اوف ات كمان في trust issues يعني. a couple of episodes ago في حدا كنا بنحكي عن موضوع التراست بالورك بليس.
نعم.
كمان ما هي لما عم تحكي انت انه يطلع الواحد الكرياتيفيتي اللي عنده to be able to adapt to it, في added responsibility لانك تعرف كيف تتعامل مع كل شغله بتصير, مع انه بدل ما تمشي by the book انك تكون more spontaneous وعفوي, وانك تقدر to play with whatever it is that comes your way. And I can relate to this لانه this is what I do in my classes. بس عندك مانجر فوق راسك بالنهايه كمان انه لا you know this is what you should do, you cannot say this, you cannot do that, you عرفت. فهيدي كمان بحس
محمود في علق على هالنقطه اللي كثير مهمه.
sure.
هيك مانجرز بيخلقوا culture بالشغل based on impression management, that's it. بتصير انت عم تشتغل to manage impressions rather than really doing any work, وبصير عندك انت الفيفورتس اللي هن ما بيعملوا كتير شغل بس they know how to manage ومسحوا جوخ, وعندك الناس اللي بدهم يشتغلوا they burn out وبيطلعوا لبرا. That's it. So the system is designed in a way to retain the mediocre and to kick out the exceptional or those with something different. حتى بالteachers لاحظ انه the systems of high performativity evaluation بالteaching profession اللي كتير institutions بلشوا يتبنوها ونمبرز والى اخره, it's retaining the mediocre and the sub quality, and those who want to do something different they بفوتوا بالحيط and they leave or they're let go. بس خليني ارجع لكلمه trust. In the literature which we've also delved into نحن بلعب, one thing leads you to another. We stumbled upon a beautiful concept اسمه psychological safety developed by a Harvard Business School professor اسمها Amy Edmondson. And psychological safety by her definition is a person's perception of the consequences of taking interpersonal risks at work or taking risks at work. What's your perception of the consequences of taking risks, especially interpersonally at work? يعني أنا وياك نشتغل سوا. You were suggesting a preposterous idea for a project that I know more about. Do I feel safe enough to say, Mahmoud, really? This is crazy. because 1 2 3. And do we both feel safe for me to say that وانت تقول you know what محمود, yeah you're right dude, what else do you suggest, بدون ما تحس الايجو تبعيتك انهارت ولازم تعمل شيء. وانا ما خاف اقول لك هيك شيء لانه انت يا المانجر يا الفيفورت تبع المانجر، واذا قلت لك هالشغله بتاثر علي سلبيا. So psychological safety according to Amy Edmondson is the degree to which you feel let's say comfortable in taking interpersonal risks at work, and what are the consequences, your perception of the consequences. And she distinguishes this from trust. أنا وياك في يكون بيناتنا trust on a personal level، بس بمكان العمل تحكي about psychological safety more. And she refers to a project عملوه جوجل اسمه Project Aristotle. Google at one point wanted to see what are the 5 top factors that create a great team. And Google ما بيفهموا هيك I think ideas or theories، بيفهموا metrics الجماعة. So they did an analysis based on all of their data of 360 evaluations, sales, quotas, surveys, interview data, ما خلوا شيء. And they tried to do regression analyses ومدري شو كل هال statistical tools, the fancy ones، ليشوفوا in their best teams بجوجل, the best functioning teams where the individuals are really doing great, they're happy in their work, they get along really well, they're very creative. شو هن the top 5 factors? And the first one was psychological safety. The second was, let me try to remember, role clarity or something like that, dependability, meaning and purpose. شي هيك. But the number 1 was psychological safety. And so بلشوا, they redesigned the way they create their teams, they train them, their managers and their leadership. غيروا leadership كلها. لأنه جوجل قبل بكم سنة من هالبروجكت عاملين project اسمه Project Oxygen وفاتوا بالحيط من وراه. They decided to kick out all of their managers.
Wow.
And say, you know, we don't want management. We want to be the flattest company ever because they get in the way. بس فاتوا بالحيط ليش؟ لأنه اكتشفوا إنه مزبوط bad managers they just get in the way of the creatives and the designers and the programmers and the engineers, but good managers actually do a great job. And so what are the good managers that they need? How to create really amazing teams, and psychological safety was the number 1. And then we found research on the importance of play and a playful mindset and a play ethic at work to create psychological safety, where you feel that you can voice your concerns. You can, if you see any fault, you can speak up without being afraid of the consequences. فيك تطرح فكرة تكون preposterous بس ما تخاف إنه يضحكوا عليك، لأنه أمرار the craziest ideas can be the best ideas, but maybe one in every 100 ideas is an amazing idea, but you have to go through the 100. And if people are afraid to go through the 100, you don't get the great idea. So yeah, sorry, you wanted to say something.
لا it's yeah. I'm flashbacks على مطارح ما
I could tell. Psychological safety is so important, and it's the main goals we work on when we're working with teams or organizations, how to get that into their culture, this ethic into their culture, and we believe that play is a good way to create psychological safety.
طب بدل ما ارجع اسالك more questions about that, can you give one concrete example about that? How can يعني كيف play would help in such dynamics to create some sort of psychological safety, let's say. لأنه well, yes. كنت بمطارح إنه ما حدا بيفتح تمه، يعني ما حدا بيفتح تمه man. إنه وبس.
هلا للأسف الشديد if the leadership is not on board انسى. بدك وقت، واكيد هالانستتيوشن حتفوت بالحيط لانه غيرها is gonna innovate, is gonna move on, is gonna create. في institutions بده يفوتوا بالحيط. اذا المانجمنت هيك انسى، ما بنشتغل يعني. بنقول لهم نعمل لكم ريتريت مهضوم هيك بس. هيدا اذا بتحس المانجمنت جايين واوبن بس مش عارفين وين المشاكل، بس عن جد they are open to do something. يعني there was one NGO, I'll give you an example. They had 5 different centers around Lebanon that do psychosocial support. The problem with these centers that they were very competitive. And by being competitive كان عندهم كليكات, so they were like silos. بقلب السايلو الكليك بيتماشى مع بعضه ومهضومين وبيحبوا بعض، بس بالنسبة لهم centers بقيين هن أعدائهم. So when they had organizational meetings to share ideas, what they're doing, to share challenges and failures on the ground. لأنه أنا يمكن كالتيم تبعي عم يفشل بهالشغلة، التيم تبعك عنده فكرة رائعة لإلي. They never did. اشتغلنا معهم على شهرين. Actually 3 أشهر. مدة 3 أشهر. نجمع التيم and we do everything from simple games to reflective sessions to other things. شو كان الغاية؟ أول شيء نكسر بعض الحواجز اللي بنحطها نحن قدام بعض لأنه بدنا نحافظ على إيجو معينة. And role switching in play, role switching is beautiful. لأنه فيها تحطك، يعني أنا في حطك if we're playing a game وأنت تحطني برول that I would never imagine myself playing and I have to play it out. So بكسر أمور براسي وبنظرة الغير لإلي اللي بتفتح فضاء إنه ابني أنا شيء جديد. في شغله كمان نعتمد عليها نحن from something called deep democracy, which we also use as a philosophy and a methodology. هذه نبعت من South Africa and a post-apartheid there. And it's built on process psychology وهيك. A little bit influenced by Jungian psychology, Carl Gustav Jung. But deep democracy integrates something called role theory. And role theory, to put it in a nutshell, when you have a group working together all the time, we بلا ما نحس نزج بأدوار معينة وبتركب علينا. بصير محمود دايما اللي بده يقول فكرة جديدة وأمرار ما إلها عازة، ومحمود اللي بده ينتقده. هيدا الشخص اللي ما بيحكي وهيدا الشخص اللي بينكت على اللي عم يحكوا. هلا role theory بتقلك إنه we are always greater than our roles and our roles are greater than us. نحن أكبر من الأدوار اللي نلعبها والأدوار اللي نلعبها أكبر مننا. يعني المهرج بالصف هو دور أكبر منك ومني. بالصف دايما في مهرج، وإذا هالمهرج نقل على مدرسة تانية واحد محله بيجي مو بصير هو مهرج الصف. كان ناطر يكون مهرج الصف، بس لأنه حدا معبي these big clown shoes، هالشخص الثاني كان الشخص اللي كتير عاقل ويمكن ينتقده لهذا الكلاون بالصف، بس فالكلاون كان عنده هو جواته مهرج صغير مش قادر يطلع لأنه في حدا معبي هالدور كتير. with role theory, and once we get them to learn about it through games, and we also do يعني learning lecturing أو seminar based، مش كله بس إنه عم نلعب games، because we believe play is mental, play is physical, play is social. نلعب بالأفكار مش بس إنه بدنا ننطنط نلعب، اللعب أكبر وأوسع بكتير. بس يقعدوا يفكروا إنه إيه والله أنا ما بدي يكون الشخص اللي دايماً مسرسب عم يلحق الكل بالتيم ويقول له سوري أنت غلطت هون وأنت غلطت هون وعمول هيك. طب ما أنا بدي يكون شيء، أنا بدي I want to think, I want to play another role. بس when they voice these things through certain activities and exercises we do, as well as learning that we try to help them do، ببلشوا يقولوا إنه إيه أنا عم بلعب هالدور كنت كل هالوقت. It's a crappy role and I don't want to play it anymore. لأنه بس عم بلعبه عم بزج بخانة معينة. I want to be creative, I want to be silly sometimes, I want to come up with preposterous ideas sometimes. ما بدي يكون أنا دايما the realist in the group. بس I have to be لأنه everybody else is playing other roles. وأنا متمسك بهالرول كتير because I'm comfortable in it and it's my identity now. in that company. So once we do that, ببلشوا يتلحلحوا بالroles تبعولهم. They start to understand that they can play several roles, and role fluidity is only human, and role fluidity is at the heart of being playful, and role fluidity, I think, is at the heart of any healthy team that can create and innovate and feel psychologically safe to share ideas boldly and to share failures boldly. So yeah.
Hey, this is actually a very interesting point. إنه role fluidity kind of. I'm trying to.
Like فينا نفكر فيها بمجال مجال الصف مان. انت كنت عم تحكي about what you try to do in your classrooms. Imagine if you only play the role of the pontificating sage who can never make a mistake in class and who knows everything, all-knowing, and of course the students will start to play the role of the ignorant who makes mistakes. But if you show the goofy side of you, the fallible side of you, the knowing side of you, the ignorant side of you, ساعتها you're allowing others to play these roles as well. Yeah. You're just taking partially that role and allowing that role. لأنه you can dominate a role in a certain setting and you don't let other people play it anymore. You want to be the hero all the time. So you let others be heroic in your class, others be villains, and they switch the roles and so on and so forth. So I experienced that firsthand also in the classroom. But yeah, sorry, if you had something.
لا ما هو ما so كمان a couple of things come to mind. بس أول وحدة إنه I don't know how I got into this شخصياً. I've been doing it spontaneously كمان, but this is good to know. I think it started 2 years ago, and this was after I was exposed to a certain workplace that was the same as the one that exhibited the same dynamics as you were saying, and the work ethic والسيستم ومانجمنت واللي بدك اياه. فبعدين it got me thinking، بلشت افكر بالموضوع ورجعت قلبت الطريقه اللي بعطي فيها صفوف. هلا كان اللي انا بالمطرح اللي كنت فيه كان ما خصه بتيتشنج. So it gave me some sort of perspective. Ever since I've been thinking كمان حتى بالصف ولاشوف كيف القصص بتصير. So I kind of إذا بدك تحطها ب your terms been playing without even me knowing. بس إنه adopting this هيدا ال role play. And you're right لأنه من قبل حتى كنت part of it is exposing vulnerabilities, I think. لأنه من قبل أنا شخصياً كماي وهيدي how it relates to one's personality. لأنه this is also important. يعني أنا شوي بلشت عم بيصير في عندي transformations شخصياً إنه كintrovert. هلا إنه with the help of other tools all of a sudden I'm adopting different هلا أنا مثلاً أنا وياك هلا هيك I do that. Yes. This is my role now. But if I meet someone else, be a different setting. I'm someone completely different, But anyway, So personality on the one hand, how much does it influence, and how can one overcome that? يعني لأنه أمرار it's very يعني أنا شخصياً كنت كتير بالصف قبل. مش لأنه لأنه I wanted to be مثلاً I'm the professor. No. But it was this is me. A distance. I kept a distance إذا بدك. Yeah, same. Yeah. فوشوي exposing vulnerabilities. It made things easier. بتشوف حتى في I noticed it with students. يعني في students مثلاً لو بالكورونا مش الكورونا الريفوليوشن أول شيء البروتست وهيك. كمان بالصف شيء على الواتساب جروب شيء على ما بعرف شو شيء so it lets this interesting dynamic انه او different aspects و dimensions to show up differently بطريقة معينة. It creates an interesting space و dynamic of the group, etc. So yeah, ما بعرف. Yeah, I just
Yes,
threw things at
absolutely.
you. Yeah.
محمود, the key word is vulnerability, and it's ما بعرف كيف حكيت كل اللي حكيته وما طلعت بكلماتي. It's funny, بس إنه this is one of our core كمان إذا بدك ideas to be able to expose vulnerability بالشغل كمان وبتعاطيك مع الأشخاص التاني. So play can help you also do that, or some of the play activities, the play encounters اللي بنجرب نحن to put people in is to help them expose vulnerability. هلا with play, if you're playing, the stakes are low, it's a safe space. We always try to create a safe space through play. So it's a gradual process when we're working with a team. Once they feel safe when they enter that space, يعني عم يظهروا من الشركة أو عم يظهروا من الشغل وعم يجوا على السبيس، مثل ما قلت بيظهروا من الرول اللي كانوا علقانين فيه بمطرح. And they start to feel more and more able to be vulnerable. يقدروا يكونوا vulnerable مع بعض أكتر. بس تكون vulnerable يعني أنت عم تحط حالك برا وعم تشوف حالك بهالمرآة اللي الأشخاص التاني عم يشوفوك فيها، وهالأشخاص التانيين عم يشوفوك بصراحة، عم يعكسوا هالإيمج back at you بصراحة. هن بيتغيروا وأنت بتتغير. So vulnerability is key. أنا أول ما بلشت أتعلم كمان كنت أنا يعني أنت اللي قلته أنا كنت أضرب، لأنه بعتقد كنت حس حالي إنه أنا بفهم كتير. لازم أو لازم كأني أنا بفهم كتير. وطبعا يعني I tried to always connect with my students، بس إنه دايما في هيك شوية نظرة دونية أمرار إنه ما بتعرفوا أنتوا هالشي، كيف مش قارين هالشغلة، كيف
هادي أنا كمان.
لعب الشيم ولو
إيه.
كيف مش مارق عليكم هالفكرة أو مش سامعين بكذا أو مش إنه عرفت كيف.
Yes, of course.
قاعد أفكر إنه شو عم بعمل. it was stressful, by the way. It was very stressful and I didn't like myself doing it. Again, once I started to expose more vulnerability, تتغير الأمور كتير. And so yeah, that's one key word لنا نحن بصراحة, the idea of vulnerability. So yeah.
and how it relates كمان إنه صعب أمرار الواحد يكون عنده one personality and to adapt to this kind of role play. إنه كمان هذه بتاخد يعني it's not easy. لا إنه how have you encountered any kind of difficulty doing that
Yes.
your workshops
أكيد. بس تتفاجأ كمان أمرار. يعني the first time we encounter a team أمرار بتقول واو هيدا الزلمة أو هيدي اللي حتعطينا أكتر مشاكل، أكتر حدا like you when you enter a classroom and you see the guy who you know is gonna be trouble. Right? Sometimes if you know how to connect with this guy in class or gal or whatever, تكتشف إنه عن جد بعقده.
Yep.
Once they open up بيصير العلاقة بتصير مبنية على حب، بيفاجئوك، بيهتموا بطريقة غريبة. وأمرار بتفشل طبعا، بس زيت شيء بالتيمز بنشتغل معها. and sometimes you get surprised. sometimes بيكونوا الناس again مزجوج، يعني يزج أو تزج بدور بدهم يلعبوه وبصير هو شخصيتهم، بس هن مش حابينه عن جد. بس خلص صار انت، صار الايدنتيتي وصار كيف الاشخاص بتشوفك. بس امرار بيكون كتير صعب انه يتحلحلوا منه، كتير صعب. طبعا يعني مش دايما تنجح، بس امرار بيكون امرار بتتفاجأ كتير انه الشخص اللي كنت انت متخوف منه اكتر شيء اول ما بلشت البروسس هو احلى. بالريفلكشن اخر شيء بقول لك the greatest gems, the greatest insights. تقول إنه wow, I'm gonna take note. It doesn't happen all the time, but it happens, and we wait for these surprises.
very curious. لأنه as you were saying هذه حتى خصوصاً آخر هلا يعني this past year كانت enlightening for me. إنه هي مع reflecting on انه again هيدي لانه من part of my experience انه بتشوف غير اكاديميه كيف they approach بالميتينجز عن شو بيحكوا الاشياء اللي بيتطرقوا لها بتلاقيهم يعني في هون كمان it's في two points انه on the one hand how they look at the students on the one hand انه و how they view themselves with regards to the students انه نحن كملت انه مثل الفيديو اللي هلا شفته اذا بدك تحكينا عنه شوي انه انا خي بس هون بس لإشي اعطي هدول المعلومات وفل you know و that's it I'm done I don't have to reflect about the actual يعني لأقلك ليه where this is coming from إنه في أمراض particularly ب stressful situations عم تحكي يعني you can take it to other examples إذا بدك بس عم نحكي هلا مثلا protests وكورونا و all of a sudden بتلاقي أنت إنه the book you always followed will abide by the book will processes that you had to follow they don't work anymore. بعدهم كان في ناس عم بيطلعوا على الموضوع بأنه أنا الأستاذ بدي أعطيك الدرس و you have to follow etc etc وبمطرح تاني خي طب وقفت وفكرت بس بلحظة إنه هدول التلاميذ محترق سلافهم مثلك مثلهم بين الايكونوميكال crisis اللي عم إنه يعني have you ever looked at these students as actual human beings have you ever thought إنه في different dimensions وإنه في مليون شغلة في ناس كانوا بعدهم عم يعطوا homework وكأنه الدنيا طبيعي يعني you know إنه خي all the إنه على سيرة إنه they need to adapt to this وفي ناس كانوا بعدهم complaining about the fact that they needed to take their classes online إنه يعني ما بعرف this has all been weird إنه أنا عم طلع فيهم إنه خي إنه funny enough بتبلش لأنه I take this into consideration بتلاقيهم منهم لحالهم بصيروا التلاميذ they share things about these إنه بتبلش بتلاحظ قديش معاناتهم مع أشياء تانية مع يا أخي معروف ما هيدا تلميذ you know فايه I don't know what you start again recording وللناس اللي حيكونوا عم يحضروا البودكاست حيلاقوا إنه it abruptly ended at some point لأنه
غير شكلي I think I got a haircut.
نعيما كمان ولابسين غير وشكلتنا غير وهذا بس هيركت انت ولا رحت عند حدا؟
Don't say haircut.
Don't say.
لا, I went to somebody like I went to my barber and he gave me a haircut. Yeah.
أنا بعدني ما عم بسترجي.
أنت عم تعملون لحالك؟
بس إنه أنا حلقتي it's easy this is why بس ما بعرف for some reason ما كتير هذا probably لأنه بدي طلع حقها لأنه أنا اشتريت المكنة وقت اللوك داون so I'm like حسبتهم كم مرة لتطلع حقها بس at least لما أطلع حقها ساعتها برجع
You want to break even ساعتها you'll consider.
I want to break even of course yeah.
Yeah, my barber told me خبرني إنه هلا عم يبيع مكانات أكتر ما عم يحلق في كتير ناس عم تشتري مكانات تقص بالبيت so he's also making some money out of that.
ايه adaptation هلا فينا نحكي على الادابتيشن shortly بس ايه هيدي هيك on the side كمان مع الانفليشن رجع غير الاسعار ولا بعد؟
ما كتير عم يتركها على عاتق الشخص انه اذا بدك تدفع زياده دفاع اذا ما بدك ما بده يغلي عليك هيدي اخر مره so ايه
interesting
ايه
yeah انه الوضع من جد مأساوي
yeah
and just explain what happened نحن كنا صورنا for another hour وشوي واختفوا ما بعرف كيف وليش ما بينوا فايه هلا
زوم عملنا
هيركت
على part of your podcast
مع انه it was انا I really enjoyed I enjoyed the discussion كتير صراحة يعني ايه it's too bad انه it's not there. بس ما بعرف شو حنرجع نحكي اليوم هلا بنشوف.
Nick, let me ask you something.
Yeah.
I recently posted something on Facebook. هيك an idea while I was like running around the neighborhood. I was exercising. I have a bad knee, and I started skipping. And I was like, skipping is less traumatic on my knee. It's for some reason it's fun. So I googled دغري فتت, is skipping better than running onto your foot? فلقيت some research that says إنه yeah, skipping is better for your joints. It burns a lot of calories. And I immediately thought, we used to do it when we were kids, right? At least more females did it than males, but I think we all had the propensity to skip because it's fun. You're playing around with the way you rhythmically walk or run or whatever. And so I put that post on Facebook. صورته دغري إنه I just drew on it allegorically إنه بالحياة عادة بينقلنا إنه لازم نركض لهدفنا. واحد راكد مثل ما بنفكر إذا بدنا نحن to burn calories أو نوصل أو to exercise بدنا نركض. فاقترحت أنا إنه يمكن في طرق مختلفة للركض. فينا we can skip. مثل ما بقولوا Warren Buffett, he tiptoes to work. No, he doesn't tiptoe. Sorry, he tap dances to work. That's what he says. He tap dances to work. But I think anyway. So I thought maybe we should consider other metaphors for reaching our goals, which are more playful. So I can actually achieve what I want to achieve if I'm running towards it in a playful way. مثل ما إذا I'm skipping physically, I'm burning calories, I'm having fun. بس نستحي نعملها. نستحي. رجعت من يومين كنت عم بركض بالحي and I decided to skip. And I always see a woman, she's a neighbor of mine ببناية تانية. دايما بشوفها عم تركض وبنسلم على بعض. ما بعرف اسمها. قالت لي شو عم تعمل؟ قلت لها I'm skipping. قالت لي ليه؟ قلت لها انه بتحرق كتير كالوريز واحسن للهيدا و it's fun. قالت لي بس انا مش مجربتها.
What you were saying you were telling her it's fun, it burns calories.
Yeah.
بس ما مجربتها قبل.
Yeah, so she started skipping with me. No. So we continued skipping. She came to skip with me. And مرقنا من حد قرطة شبابك واقفين على جنب. طلعوا فينا بطريقة قلت لي ليك رح يضحكوا علينا. قلت لها شو بدي يضحكوا؟ بالعكس. They probably إنه مجتمعنا دايما بيطلع بفكرة اللعب إنه شيء للولاد، شيء هيك في نظرة دونية لإله. it's symptomatic of many other things. anyway لما حطيت هالبوست في حدا رد علي critically and I really enjoyed it. لقى الركض هو جزء من طبيعة جسمنا we evolved to be runners وشرح لي شوي ليش. بعدين أنا رديت عليه قلت له إيه بس ما بيضر إنه نجرب قصص playfully كمان. we are play is baked into our nervous system. We are made to play and to explore the repertoire of our movement and the spectrum of our movement through play. So there are other ways. We used to run to hunt. He was saying, we're made to run for long distances to catch up with zebra or other game so that we can hunt them. فقلت له إيه بس that's just to hunt, but we also expressed our movements in many other ways. فحبيت شو كان عم يقول. بس رجع آخر شيء قال لي kind of he was building some ideas on Nassim Taleb's book Antifragile. Is it called Antifragile?
Yeah.
Hey, so it got me.
Yeah.
All right. So he mentioned that he was reading Nassim Taleb's Antifragile or Fragile, and I didn't know much about that concept. So I went in and read a little bit about synopsis of his book, and I wondered, and I'd love I don't know if you've read the book or if you're familiar. Okay, great. How much can that maybe overlap with the conception of play not just as like from a philosophical, maybe ontological perspective of what play could be? Like how much, the way I understood Antifragile is that which is not fragile or resilient, because if something is resilient like a wall, it will not break down if it's stressed, but it will not change, it will not adapt. Fragile, it will just break down and crumble, let's say. Antifragile is that which is not as resilient as a wall, it actually adapts and changes with the changes. And I felt that this is really at the heart of, if we want to think of play as a survival mechanism for many mammals to always be flexible and malleable enough to adapt to the changing environmental conditions throughout evolution, as well as how on a cognitive, intellectual, specifically for us as humans, the way we play with possibility, creativity, reality, how that also is quite an adaptive force for us. So I'd love your thoughts, because I'm not really familiar that much with that concept.
Interesting. I'll start with اليوم I was having coffee with someone. هيدي on the side you'll like that. I'll tie it with Nassim Taleb's مش بس anti-fragility, his concept of tinkering, which I think you will like.
Awesome. I didn't know he also speaks about tinkering. Is it in the same book? Well, it's a different book.
It is in the same book, yes.
Okay, I need to get that book. Okay.
بتعرف شو? Let me just bring it as well. But before that, قبل ما انسى الفكرة, and I'll have it with me كرمال شوف إذا بركي في شيء. It's interesting. فاليوم كنا عم نحكي عن إنه كيف في كتير ناس who take things all too seriously. وما كنت حتى يعني ماني جاي من منظار البلاي that you are talking about or seriousness او هذا, انه خي بس chill. فهو الشخص بيعلم كمبيوتر, بيعلم programming وكودينج, وانا كنت عم بحكي عن انه كيف عنا بالفلسفي particularly department انه كمان اخذين everything all too seriously. And he said something كمان يعني it was very interesting. ما بعرف حتى ما سألته إذا he's familiar with your work أو شيء, بس قال لي look, I came to the conclusion that if you are not or you're never able to play with what you're doing, يعني إذا you're coding and you don't know how to play with your code, you will never evolve. So عجبتني الفكرة إنه I think إنه إيه it's خي ليش يعني when you take things all too seriously أنت وكأنه you've already figured the truth and you're fighting for it instead of tinkering on the side. يعني this doesn't mean إنه أنت مش عم تعمل your work seriously, بس on the إنه you're tinkering on the side to explore new dimensions, to explore maybe it depends on the context, to explore new aspects of your personality, مثل ما حكينا من قبل على different roles that we play, maybe different anything, you know. فعجبتني إنه إنه I was like oh yeah it's spot on. نسيم طالب. Let me just one second, I'll be back. Let me get it and we'll continue that. So yeah, this is Antifragile. It's a big book, and نحن بوقتها كنا I think we discussed skin in the game, right? بالmeet up.
Yes, we had once talked about that. Yeah.
هني I think يعني بس لأعطيك an example, لأنه في عنده مثل table that he had the difference between what if ما بعرف إذا شفتها هاي إنه the central triad, 3 types of exposures. فبالنسبة لا عم بعطيك examples so that we can maybe إنه بتقلي عنا مثلا بالbusiness what is fragile New York banking system, what is anti-fragile Silicon Valley, fail fast be foolish. يعني عندك tinkering concept, you know, you're exploring مش بس خلص systems are rigid and then it becomes all too fragile. Biological and economic systems بالfragile efficiency optimized, robust redundancy مثل كلوتين بدل كلوة. بالanti-fragile degeneracy, functional redundancy. I actually don't know what that means, degeneracy.
Functional
functional redundancy maybe.
Redundancy and degeneracy.
Degeneracy انه maybe autophagy probably or
functional redundancy. لحظة مش أنت قلت بالفراجل it's something there's a redundancy in the fragile.
بالrobust.
إيه. Okay.
بالfragile when you optimize the system.
Yes.
Errors hates mistakes is fragile. Mistakes are just information robust. Loves mistakes since they are small. هذا الانتي-fragile. So هذه كمان an example of tinkering.
Interesting.
يعني fail explore new dimensions, fail fast to fail fast such that you learn and build upon it. بدل ما تدلك عم بتحط الريسك under the carpet to eventually you blow up. يعني
yes.
Science and technology هذه كمان I think you might maybe it might relate. Directed research is fragile. Opportunistic research is robust. Stochastic tinkering, anti-fragile tinkering, or bricolage. So
bricolage. Okay, interesting.
Yeah.
Interesting. Yeah, that's absolutely interesting. It got me thinking about so many other things as well. I know we can relate it to so many things, but it got me thinking about teachers. Like what do we want to be? You have the fragile teachers and the robust teachers, and maybe the desirable is the anti-fragile teacher, who by being anti-fragile opens up space for tinkering, for adaptability, and for surprise. The fragile one, we know what happens to those, and sometimes they react by هيك بطريقة مرضية ليخبوا fragility. وعندك الرobust or هيدا كمان that their kind of education becomes a form of indoctrination to a certain extent, perhaps. And the anti-fragile, James Cars, the person you still have me?
Yeah, you're still on.
Yeah, that James Cars, I may have mentioned him, كاتب finite and infinite games. He applies these concepts to education, and at one point he says in his book, training prepares you against surprise, but education prepares you for surprise. And I think that kind of also taps into what we're saying. With training, you're being prepared against surprise insofar as you want to anticipate any possible surprise, such as in a game of chess. Let's say you're playing chess. He talks about mastery. A chess master works hard so that she or he will not be surprised by whatever your moves are. They always have a contingency plan. They want to eliminate surprise because they want to end play. They want to win. But an infinite player instead, through an open education, let's say, embraces surprise because they know that through that surprise comes so much growth and learning by adapting to new things, thinking, pushing yourself outside of your comfort zone, tinkering, etc. And I kind of saw some parallels there. So
agreed. I'm حاول شوف لك learning fragile is classroom.
Okay.
Robust is real life.
Okay.
And anti-fragile real life and library.
And library?
Yeah.
Okay, I see what you're saying. Yeah. Interesting.
فهو يعني when you are anti-fragile, he talks about, for example, هيدي let me كمان look it up على bureaucrats. So economic life, bureaucrats are fragile and entrepreneurs are anti-fragile. لأنه you can, as you said, when you tinker, when you're exploring, when you're adapting, you're constantly kind of Heidi, we discussed it a bit. You constantly are developing skills to be able to adapt to. We discussed it in the non-recorded part. Yeah, no, acquiring skills to be able to benefit from change.
Yes.
When you're a bureaucrat, when بيعطي هو example two brothers, واحد بيشتغل ببنك if I'm not mistaken, والتاني لأنه I read this 2 years ago, والتاني بيشتغل اوبر درايفر. الاول بيشتغل ببنك 9 to 5. It seems that في veneer of certainty, you know, everything is figured out, becomes obsolete لانه ما تعلم شيء جديد. خلص بيعرف شغلته even if he got the promotion. He gets laid off. Whereas the Uber driver هلا بيعطي of course these are examples يعني it's just to illustrate the main idea. بس انه during the volcano eruption I think طلعت معه مثلا وحده من لندن لما بعرف وين دفعت X amount, you know, so انه be extreme cases when you are anti-fragile you win big. هيدي الكونسبت تبع الانتي-fragility انه convex يعني you hedge your downside such that your upside is always exponentially more beneficial.
Yes.
So you try to hedge yourself بالحياة in a way whereby إذا صار شيء you don't or you lose minimally, وإذا صار شيء or you win big. Yeah. Yeah.
Very interesting.
Yeah.
حبيت هالمقارنة بين الانتربرنور والبيروقراط. And to go back to taking yourself too seriously and taking things too seriously, maybe this is one of also the distinguishing features of a bureaucrat. Like I've dealt with a lot of bureaucrats through my consulting work, and they take themselves and think in the world too seriously. And maybe an entrepreneur being equipped, hopefully, with a degree of naivete, and vulnerability of thinking, I'm trying to figure stuff out to build something, and I'm unsure about myself. I have so much to learn about what I'm trying to do. Kind of gives you that playful kind of feature, perhaps. There's a guy called Benjamin Zander. I don't know if I mentioned him. Benjamin Zander, he's a conductor of I think maybe the Boston Orchestra. He's British, and he's also a music teacher. And in one of his talks to teachers, he's talking about teaching and education and two visions for education. And it's really, really interesting what he talks about. But at one point, he's telling teachers, he tells them a story, a very nice story. He's like, there are two prime ministers. Did I mention this last time?
I don't think so, no.
Okay, I'll just go ahead and say it. You can cut it out.
حتى ما who cares, yeah.
Yeah. So two prime ministers, a host prime minister and a visiting prime minister. They're sitting and having a discussion in the prime minister's host, country, whatever. And while they were talking, the door opens and a woman walks in, looking disheveled, angry. Her makeup is ruined, and her hair is all over the place. She's frantic and she's like, shouting, and like she's stressed about something. And the host prime minister looks at her and says, let's say, Ellen, please remember rule number 6. And all of a sudden, Ellen becomes composed and she's like, I apologize, Prime Minister. I'm really sorry. Puts a smile on her face and just walks out. A few minutes later, a guy walks in the same kind of frantic, state. He's so stressed, angry, blah, blah, blah. The Prime Minister says, John, please recall rule number 6. And of course, John, says, I'm really sorry, I forgot. And becomes all like tranquil and composed and walks out. And so the visiting prime minister, he couldn't believe his eyes. He's like, please tell me, like, what is this rule number 6? And the prime minister says, don't take yourself so goddamn seriously. That's the rule.
Wow.
And But there's another, that's a double layered lesson here. And then the other prime minister asks, what are the other rules? Because this is rule number 6. And the host prime minister, he says, there aren't any. So it's about the arbitrariness of numbers. He was trying to make a point about grades and numbers and that they're arbitrary, as well as not to take yourself so seriously.
Yeah.
And I thought it was an interesting lesson for teachers بصراحة.
ايه انه وكأنه حاملين some sort of ما بعرف حاملين نسلم بالعرض basically انه ايه it's انه it doesn't, and this is why they become anti-fragile or become fragile لما when you take yourself all too seriously as a bureaucrat or something متى على قولة هون بيصير شيء and then you freak out وخلق انه you don't know how to handle it لانه it's not written in the book or it's not written in the rules or in the ما بعرف شو بيضيع الواحد ولانه نحن هون we're all too serious والاستاذ أنا الأستاذ هيدي it was in the non-recorded part we had a very long bit on that إنه it's fine to expose vulnerability, it's fine to interact with students, to hear what they have to say, to change roles a bit. And to on the side tinker يعني you of course you do know your material بس إنه it's interesting to always بس هلا come to think about it and let me just read this first. I'll ask the question so هذه من الbook. This ability to switch from a course of action is an option to change. Options and optionality, the character of the option, our topic. Optionality will take us many places, but at the core, an option is what makes you anti-fragile and allows you to benefit from the positive side of uncertainty without a corresponding serious harm from the negative side. So it's basically when you're tinkering, you're building up your optionalities. يعني بيكون حتى لو عندك شغل, you build a small business on the side maybe, or you explore other aspects of yourself, personality, skills, to build them up in order to be able to keep on growing on the one hand and to adapt. But when it comes to a مثلا educational setting, في خوف من التينكرينج لأنه لما بدنا نعمل تينكرينج we do it as a system. So بيصيروا بيعطونا workshops to learn new skills. بيصيروا there's an elimination of the individuality of the professor in class is a she. At least هيدي من lately as of late انه كلنا بنروح على الوركشوب, كلنا بنرجع من الوركشوب we absorb this وخلص وكلنا بنطبق نفس الشيء. يمكن ما بتزبط بالصف, يعني انا يمكن عم اعلم شيء ثاني, يمكن اسلوبي غير, يمكن what do you think about that?
Absolutely. It's counterproductive and a little bit paradoxical if we want to think about it from a play perspective. You can't force people to play, and you can't force them to play by following strict rules. And that's what they do sometimes in these workshops. They tell you they tell you the method of being creative. I mean, it doesn't work that way. You have to tap into something different about that person. Give them this. I would empower them to have a certain degree of autonomy in exploring possibility. Give them the safety to tinker and to play with the people that they're playing with, be it students, to have a safe place for failure to occur in small degrees. Like Mahmoud, think about it. فت انت على صف لتعلم هالصف and you had come up with a preposterous crazy idea to teach that class and it was a total flop. What's the impact on the grand scheme of things? Nothing. The downside, let's go back to your definition. The downside is little, but if it works, the upside is amazing.
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah.
So, but if the institution doesn't allow you to do that, لأنه في فكرة معينة على شو البروفيسور أو التيتشر, والplesson plan والكذا, then okay, you're being maybe robust or whatever. إذا أنت محضر وبتفوت على الصف وبتعمل كل شيء. نسيم بيعتبر نسيم طالب life is بس fine. Or you're going to be very fragile because things will just break down, and that's what happened to the education system. It's broken down. Students study to get grades. Grades are getting more and more inflated لأنه universities are competing وقصص وحكايات يعني إنه it's breaking down. The system is breaking down. So yeah.
Very it's that part of grade inflation و competing, and then I'm trying to think إنه keeping in mind إنه لما عم نقول play أو tinkering or anything of the sort, this doesn't mean إنه يعني we need to keep in mind إنه we're also hedging our downside in the sense that مش يعني إنه حتفوت وما تعطي الماتيريال تبع الصف، أو مش يعني إنه حتفوت وما، بالعكس، بس it's to figure out ways, learn new stuff about how to deal with the material, how to adapt it to. هلا عم نحكي نحن لأنه أنا شخصياً my experience is that، بس أنت يمكن هلا given that عم تعطي workshops وهيك it's you've learned with time إنه كل مرة يمكن بتجرب شيء، أمرار بيزبط أمرار لا، شوي you start fixing here there, tweaking a bit, tinkering مع جروب معين تعملها مع جروب تاني غير بلا بلا بلا. إنه it's not about يعني I'm just highlighting this part تماين إنه it's not about تنسى كل شيء، إنه ينسى كل شيء الواحد وهيك يلا أنا إنه من هول الانتربرنور اللي أنا entrepreneur and then I sit down in a cafe and I live the part, you know, I'm an entrepreneur. No, it's not that. It's you're an entrepreneur and no, you actually work. You create ideas, blah 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 blah. There's a rigorous kind of aspect to it. مش
absolutely.
يلا
Absolutely. Like imagine, like with play comes the idea of flow as well, and the idea of when you're immersed in something so much and your attention is so focused because you're immersed and you lose consciousness or awareness of time, of your sense of self. I mean, these come with play as well. And so it's not like, being in heike, ما عم تعمل شيء أو there's this frivolous kind of understanding of play and la, I'm just jumping with the butterflies. That's fine. That's a form of play if you may, but that's not what I'm talking about. أكيد
ولا when we talk about anti-fragility, it's about exploring new options. لأنه كمان حكينا عن الجيج ايكونومي، وهلا مثلا إنه الاثنين والوضع صعب وهيك. So I had a discussion the other day مع حدا. I'm interested to see what you think about this على سيرة الشغل وهيك. إنه something along the lines of there was a tweet that was saying إنه along the lines of working hard towards a certain objective is dangerous along the lines of that. And we ended up speaking about هالفكرة إنه أنا بشتغل I work hard for X number of years and then I retire, etc., etc. And I was telling him إنه there's nothing, it's not that. وهو كان معلق على فكرة dangerous إنه لا، إنه أنا بشتغل I work hard and I will reap the benefits eventually. What I'm thinking about it from a different way إذا بدك إنه ليش بعدنا we look at works like مثلا إنه working ما بعرف يعني it's it's a bit weird لأنه when I discuss it with other people it seems to them as crystal clear إنه this is how things should be إنه we need to work hard meaning 9 to 5 X number of years climb up the promotional ladder etc وبعدين you retire and that's it.
Hey, I'll share a few thoughts, Heike, off the cuff with you about that. And maybe we can tie it to fragility and other things and the play ethic that Pat Kane speaks about and stuff like that. The problem with this kind of ethic and this kind of commitment is time and again, recent history has showed us that there are no guarantees. The 2008 crash in the stock market and the millions of people losing their pensions and insurance and so on and so forth. That's what created in the millennial generation and the later generation such skepticism about the X generation's ethic about life. And no, the idea for the X generation was you work hard, you go to a good school, you get a job, you climb the corporate ladder, let's say, and then you retire and live a very good life. But then as these millennials watched so many of that generation's hopes crumble with the crash of the market, millions lost their pensions, as well as the fact that economy is changing so much that it's becoming more skills-based, like output rather than input. More and more companies don't care about degrees and there are no guarantees. What's his name? One of the investors in Facebook, philosopher, techie, angel investor, venture capitalist, Peter Thiel.
Peter Thiel, yeah.
Peter Thiel, he has a very good talk critiquing college degrees. He actually has a grant for students who want to be entrepreneurs. Who drop out from, the condition is you drop out of college. But he says, universities were sold to people as an insurance, as an insurance kind of like system, as an investment, and as something else. And he debunks all of those. It's no longer an insurance system because you can't cash it anywhere. If you're insured, if you get sick and you go to any hospital, that hospital should accept you. Companies don't accept your degree just because you have it. It's not an investment. People like students are compounding so much student loan and getting jobs for peanuts. It's impossible to pay back your loan, and it gets you thinking whether it's a real investment. So millennials looked at that and looked at the crumbling economy and looked at what this X generation were promised and lost, and they thought, screw that. Why should I do that? I don't want to invest all of my ما بدي احط كل بيضاتي بسله واحده. But they had to hedge things. Maybe I'll develop different skill sets. I don't want to work 9 to 5. I want to be able to be more flexible with my time, and so on and so forth. I know that I'm generalizing, but هال spirit was also a reaction to the failures or to what they saw as a failure in the generations that preceded them and their hopes. So اللي عم يعول كتير إنه أنا بشتغل كل حياتي خاصة بالjob that they probably don't like that much. So that will actually curtail their creativity in it, and maybe might but it might reduce their work to routine-based procedures, which if their work becomes 90% that or 80% that, AI is guaranteed to replace any routine-based work very easily. Be it soft or hard, but if it's routine and repetitive. So somebody who doesn't like their job will probably not tinker. If they don't tinker, then they become so regimented in what they do and also almost like robotic, عشوائي. And I know a lot of people who do that. If they become that, then most probably the kind and type of work they do is easily replaceable by AI or automation. And all their investment for a pension later on might actually be cut simply through haircuts or market schemes or whatever. Like, we don't know. صندوق التعويض تبع المعلمين معظمه بالليره اللبنانيه. كله بالليره اللبنانيه. هلا اذا بدي اعمله هير كات
ما هو ايه هيدا اللي كان بدي اساله، انه هلا عم نحكي بالاكزيستنشاليزم كورس we're talking about all this and it's يعني ايه في مثل هيك a perspective that equates يعني في يمكن الكونسبشن تبعنا تبع work hard is a bit هيك is maybe problematic انه بالنسبه لنا انه work hard is this مش that you can be working hard doing other things كمان و tinkering و playing واللي هو this is on the one hand and on the other hand انه هال existential crisis مثل ما عم تقول انه نحن هلا بوضع كلياتنا ايه انه الناس اللي اشتغلوا كتير والناس اللي فلحوا كتير والناس on all levels يعني حتى البزنس مان البزنس بيرسون اللي ما خصوا عم نحكي at a certain level you know the honest business person who really make money وهيدا we are all effed one way or the other هلا so it's and it's curious to see people's reaction to all this. عندك اللي قاعد عايش in denial up until now. عندك اللي still hopeful انه لا حيرجعوا المصريات. وعندك اللي خلص الريالست اذا شيء انه سلموا امرهم للواقع and they were like okay we need to figure out new things. بس ايه انه تخيل عن جد انه التعويض تبع الاساتذه is gone. يعني is gone meaning انه it's worth absolutely nothing مع ال current inflation. مش تما نقول انه حقه انه لا تحولهم لدولار او شيء، لا بس لا تعيش بلبنان بقى خلص it's impossible.
وبتقول لك وحده من المسؤولين عن الصندوق، نزلت حكيت لها اثناء الثوره توك، بتخبرك انه قد ايه صار لهم 2 أو 3 عم يشتغلوا ليقدروا تو اتليست عارفين بده يصير شيء وبتحكي راحت قعدت مع شرب النحاس من اكثر من 2 وقال لها انه جايين على ازمه مخيفه، حولوا قد ما فيكم دولار، وراحوا جربوا انه يقدروا يحولوا دولارات او يقدروا يستثمروا بشيء بس ليحموا التعويض، وما حدا خليهم يعملوا هالشيء. يعني كل حطوا لهم عصي بالدوليب كل السياسيين. فبتسأل انه so yeah it's a very uncertain world, maybe to us as people who don't have access to the all-seeing eye of the Freemasons or whoever they are.
Yeah.
But for us, it's very unpredictable, and therefore we need to develop certain dispositions بحالنا to deal with the world in ways that allows us to adapt, be flexible, malleable.
Is it to play the devil's advocate a bit, should life be like that؟ يعني لأنه مثلا من example تبع لوقتها of Spanish friends of mine بالنسبة لهم بينظروا للجيج ايكونومي وهيك اشياء انه to be يعني to adapt و to have هيك different gigs وهيدا انه as though you are giving in to the corporate / capitalist kind of system, whereas when in reality what you need to be doing or what should be provided to you is this stability. بالنسبة لهم انك انت تكون this انه يكون عندك هالاتيتيود towards انه هن بالنسبة لهم السيستم عم بيجرك انك انت تعمل هيك شيء.
اكيد
فبيعارضوا هذا الشيء معارضة شديدة انه لا لازم نضلنا you know هل بهيك 9 to 5 الكذا، ولازم يضمنوا لنا الدولة تضمن لنا حقنا والشغل والبلا بلا بلا. What do you think about that?
I agree with them. I agree with them in principle because I agree with how they identify that this is يعني بالنهاية a gig economy is playing into the big game of the big monopolies. في this guy Naval Ravikant, he's a he's a كمان investor and Silicon Valley figure, and he tells you what we're moving towards is having these hegemons of for retail عنا Amazon, for ما بعرف شو social advertising, social media كذا, عندك Facebook and كذا whatever. يعني عندك a few hegemons. For let's say online courses بيصير عندك 2-3 كتير كبار, and like a comet بيعطي هالexample, like a comet with a tail of debris بيصير عندك big bulk, it's moving, and بس everybody can be part of that debris and make a lot of money. Like you can live comfortably, but you have to go into that gig economy of, tapping into these huge platforms and doing different gigs, be it teaching an online course home, تعمل social media marketing for a couple of companies because you've developed those skills. You do some copywriting for another company, and if you've learned some design, you do some design, whatever. يعني I'm about to example. You make your money, you make good money, you decide you want to take a break for a month and travel around. You travel around. When you're ready, you open up your phone again, see how you were rated on your previous gigs. Based on the ratings, you might get offered new gigs, and that's how. So is it a bleak هيك vision of the future? It may be. إذا مسكنا بالbureaucracies الموجودة هلا, any country that doesn't do that is going to compete with you and probably win you over. يعني if unfortunately, يعني it's not like we can come up with the rules of play. إذا نحن هون هلا بلبنان قلنا بتعرف شو بدنا نرجع لسيستم هيك بيروقراطي ومبني على اليونيونز ومبني على الفعال. In principle it's beautiful, but if every other country out there is not doing the same and allowing yourself to get stuck in a certain mode, social and economic mode, ما بعرف if that is the way forward, right? I really don't know. I tell you, Mahmoud, أنا really honestly deep inside, I would ideally love to not work for money. I would. If I يعني شوي حيكون هيك يعني هون حفوت ideally in a communist society, not run by a dictatorship, but a real kind of communism of I'm never actually feeling that I need to be motivated by making money. It creates so much stress for me that I start to feel that I'm compromising good ideas for mediocre ones just because they might make money. To be honest, لأنه not all good ideas in the current market economy have return on investment fiscally. So, but they might be good for humanity. They might be good for so many things. So, I'd rather not work in a capitalist society. I'd rather work in a communist society. If I had this whole argument, لا, we're competitive by nature and we need these incentives to progress. I really feel that sometimes capitalism curtails progress. بس ما بدنا نفوت كتير هذه. أنا عم بحكيك personally. I'd love to be able to work feeling مأمن لي basic needs, and not just the basic needs, and some also higher needs. And I do what I do out of like commitment to knowledge, curiosity, invention, impact on humanity, rather than compounding money. That's basically, but that's not reality. That's not the real.
This is not reality. المشكل بيدل إنه ultimately the government, the communist government, will still need to figure out how to make money to provide everyone else. So يعني it's not that easy. This is why communism is also يعني it's an impractical utopia basically that will never be able to be concretized.
هلا هي في the issue of scale. يمكن sometimes I think maybe on a more communal level it might work.
Communal level it works.
The bigger the scale and the more alienated people get from one another, the more bureaucracies there are. We are just alienated. How can you de-alienate people in such a large scale? ما بعرف إنه it's
welcome to Nassim Talib's localism, my friend.
Yeah.
يعني أنت at the communal level you are a communist. هو بيقول بعدين ما بعرف أي level you're a socialist.
بيقول on a family level you are a communist.
communal level يعني up until بس up until يعني 100 people بيقول لك إنه communism بيزبط. بس أكثر هيك إنه it doesn't add up يعني. في عندك عم تحكي بالنهاية حتى لو كلياتنا communists صرنا إنه بالنهاية في ناس عندهم resources that you need and they might not need anything from you. عندك فكرة إنه يعني في عندك a problem of resources and providing for people. إنه it's a great idea of course. بس بالنهاية في إنه to be able to provide these basic needs. وحتى لما نحكي عن universal basic income which is a great idea. بس بالنهاية طب وبيقول لك إيه ما money is something that is supported by the government, meaning we create it and it's not really doesn't really have value. It has value insofar as we give it value. طيب بس to buy stuff to live منين بدي أجيب لك stuff يعني anything. هلا نحن بلبنان عم نبلش نلاحظها هلا لأنه it's hitting us directly. We don't have the means to import حتى raw material to produce بلبنان. فما في هالproduction and this is why we don't have anything basically now.
Yeah.
it's yeah ما بعرف I don't know.
Let's not get into that because it's very complicated and it's
we need eventually we need to have these kinds of discussions sometime in the future, and we need as a collective whole لأنه مش كل يعني مش it's maybe it's not only about the system, it's insofar as you are a productive economy. يعني think in terms of Germany. على سيرة يعني ما بعرف I will try to tie it back to the concept of play, and maybe we can wrap up. And Germany is from what I know, my very limited knowledge, and بعدهم they operate on a family business level. They are a productive economy. This is what a productive economy is, and they are socialists لأنه they can afford that لأنه they export stuff all over the place لأنه their production is good. بس they يمكن this is what I'm trying to say is unlike مثلا أمريكا ما في I think in a free market the only intervention that you need to have in order to ensure equal opportunity for all is إنه things don't become monopolized. لأنه as you said لما يصير عندك بس في أمازون وجوجل وفيسبوك وتويتر إنه خلص إنه إنه there's no point anymore. بس لما تمنعهم لما you intervene such that you allow you stop monopolies. مين ما كان بيصير بيقدر يفتح business and no one يعني and the competition will always more or less be fair. Germany is good in that. ما بتشوف مثلا big German companies إنه خلص مسيطرين على الماركت و that's it. بعدهم إنه حتى as big as it could get بيضلوا they are operating at مثل إنه family business GmbH or something. عرفت. ف I think this is why it works be a place like إنه maybe this is what we need eventually to aspire for. إنه first create this market where people can explore and tinker when they have that opportunity to develop businesses. بس in a place like Lebanon عم حاول ارجع اربطها بهون. بدنا كثير
ايه the ethic that is يعني there's a certain ethic بمجتمعنا بده يتغير لنقدر I think to be productive. There's a problem with like the zeitgeist of how we think about هون بلبنان كيف نفكر، كيف الواحد بيوصل، كيف بينجح، كيف بيكون شاطر. هدول أنا بعتقد أمراض يعني عنا إياهم.
Tell me more and I promise I will wrap up shortly. بس I'm
لا إنه أنت بلبنان شاطر إذا محتال، إذا بتعرف تستعمل الواسطة لتوصل، إذا بتعرف to take the easy way out. إنه بيضحكوا على الإنسان اللي بيشتغل بجد وبجرب يوصل، وعرفت إنه بيتهموه إنه نايف أو لك. ففي بحس هذا الأثيك موجود. فبتخيل إنه وبنحكي عنه ببرايد إنه إيه أنت شاطر بلبنان إذا بتعرف تتبهلل. وما بدي أقول تلعب لأنه هذا ما بعتبره لعب. أنا
ما إنه لعب أبدا.
إيه بتعرف تزعبر basically. فكيف بدك تخلق اقتصاد منتج ومجتمع متماسك؟
This is on the one hand, but don't you think كمان إنه as someone Osama from he's in the class as well, and we've been discussing that all along. He calls it the Lebanese exhibitionism كمان. إنه in addition to this عندك الفكرة إنه نحن ما بننتج كمان لأنه بدنا أحسن سيارات وبدنا أحسن براندز so this also maybe we become هيك إنه بيصير بدنا to afford a lifestyle that is way beyond our financial capabilities.
That too أكيد. like نحن عنا a certain brand of work ethic غريب الشكل، لأنه the Protestant Calvinist work ethic of frugality, right? Like you work hard but you are frugal. وهيك لا هون بس if you work hard وزعبرت وجبت مصاري مزبوط. there's a culture of exhibitionism هيك you want to flaunt your successes ايه يعني I don't know.
Any final thoughts on that? How we can maybe start at least to start somewhere? How would you change that? Is it education? Is it يعني where did we go wrong لو وصلنا لهون؟ إنه is it لأنه كمان we were يعني كنا كمان عم نحكي اليوم إنه is it the French educational system اللي got us here مثلا؟ is it our educational system? Is it is it the values? What is it? ما نحكي عن السياسة وسكتاريانزم، عم نحكي بس على أتا work ethic / exhibitionist هيدا الليفل.
ما بعرف هلا يعني it warrants a lot of thinking. بس هيك if you press me to think of something, what came to mind أول شيء براسي هو إنه المجتمع القروي بلبنان اللي منه نزح اللبناني على العالم وعلى المدينة، بعتقد يمكن في بذور هالشي. يعني هاجر اللبناني من ضيعته على أمريكا أو على فنزويلا أو على مدري وين، وبس رجع حب يفرجي إنه هو ما بعرف عمل شي معه شي، بس نزل على المدينة. فكأنه هالأثك أو المايند سيت بعدها موجوده، انه انا لمين عم فرجي او لمين، يعني شو عم فرجي، انه انا كانه منبهر انه انا عملت مصاري وفي اشتري سياره. طيب ليه هالانبهار بهالشيء اذا نحن مثلا بمجتمع هالشيء في مين ستريم؟ انه ليش why do we feel that need to be exhibitionist about it؟ الا اذا هو كمان I really don't know. I really don't know.
من how do we cultivate that؟ انه ايه على قولتك مش بس يمكن المجتمع القروي اللبناني in general، انه لانه نحن يعني probably كمان the fact that the majority over several decades كانوا عم بيروحوا على دبي وابو ظبي ويرجعوا، فيمكن كمان بتاثر انه بدهم اللايف ستايل تبع دبي بمطرح ذات اللي منه منتج كمان. هلا نحن عم we're talking ما بعرف هيك لانه عم نفكر we're exploring that so بس يعني لما سالني هالسؤال I was like ايه انه يعني ليش seriously ليش؟ إيه فايه اتس انه بدنا على طول يعني ما بتشوف هالشيء مثلا places حتى انه in very few places in Europe مثلا او in very few places in the US، ويمكن ال SUVs in the US they need them لانه طرقاتهم كبيره وعندهم long commutes وهيك. نحن عندنا هون خي ليه بدك SUV يعني او ليه بدك البي ام دبليو انه مع طرقات لبنان يعني you know so it's maybe it has something to do with that اللي راحوا على امريكا ودبي
يمكن
بس كمان في مثل education يعني يمكن a lack of a certain kind of education virtue ما بعرف could be كمان انه ال educational system خلص really needs to revamping in a way انه لنبلش نتعلم اشياء تانية انه ايه هذه فكرة انه الناس وشوت للناس للناس وشو بيقولوا علينا الناس وايه it's yeah I have to think about this a bit.
Yeah, me too.
ايه anyway this is Antifragile. It's an interesting it's interesting that you brought it up. No, the book is really cool. I think you'll enjoy it.
I'll definitely get it, and I want to thank. I can't remember who is it that posted. مثل ما قلت لك على the Facebook video that I posted. So I want to thank that guy's comments and how he tied stuff with Antifragile, but I can't remember his name because it kind of evoked this whole conversation.
So yeah, thank you very much for the talk.
Thank you.
I hope اليوم ما يروح هيدا and هيدي because we mentioned it in the other chat, unrecorded one. So you're currently doing عم بتظبط أو عم بتحضر podcast and you have a website or something كمان?
Yeah. It's just my personal website. I called it corridori.com because the idea of a corridor is something that is dear to me. من أنا وصغير ونحن كنا نتخبى بالكوريدورات لما كان يصير في قصف بالكوريدورات أنا وعائلتي وقرايبيني. We would it would expand into a playground and a كرسة حكواتي ولا games ولا قصص ولا هيدا. فالكوريدور اللي هو this transient space in a common house that has the function of tying rooms together. We used to become a place of so much like imagination and creativity and safety and إلى آخره. For me, that was something that I really appreciate. The second كمان experience with corridors is every time تعرف بس كنا نعلم بالLAU تظهر من الصف أو أي جامعة مرار بيلحقك كم شخص كم تلميذ into the corridor.
Exactly.
And great conversations happen there لأنه بتنسى إنه أنت عندك syllabus تنسى عندك كذا. What يعني it becomes an as you walk and talk down the corridor. I've had the most interesting conversations there. Nice. And so I wanted to create a podcast that opens space for such conversations, corridor conversations. that allow هيك this dynamism and kind of I like how you're doing things as well, because they're not regimented, they're open and they're playful. They allow things to مثل ما أعطيت الإكزامبل مرة الماضية بين debates and conversations بين finite and infinite games.
Oh yeah.
You do run like an infinite game on your podcast, which I really respect, because it keeps conversation going. لاحظ شو حكينا وقديت فرعنا, and I think it's wonderful rather than تك 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 عندي هالكم سؤال ويلا جاوب عليهم.
Yes.
So thanks for this opportunity.
Is it out yet ولا anytime is it?
No, بعد I wanted to, I was going one direction, and I think I'm going to tweak it in a different direction. And then when I have a few episodes up my sleeve, then I will actually launch it, at least 2-3 episodes.
Okay. تمام. So yeah. Thank you very much again.
Thank you, Mahmoud.
Much appreciated. Cheers.
Cheers.
Bye.
See you soon.
Yep.
Bye.
بس